Hey guys, Manny CA here, coming at you with another video on firearms maintenance and repair. Now, today we're going to talk about the cylinder lockup and things you could do to improve your cylinder in your single action revolvers. Here we've got a couple of different Rugers, because I like Rugers, I'm a Ruger guy. And then we've also got a percussion cap, which is no different than any of the other Rugers that we're working on. And this will also apply to any of your single actions. So basically what we're going to do today is go through and kind of talk about the different problems you could have with the cylinder not locking up and honing out your cylinder and good stuff like that to make your gun a little bit smoother. So you guys want to use it for cowboy action or competition or just plinking around. You know, why give it to a gunsmith when they're going to charge you who knows how much? And this is basically pretty simple until you get into a little bit more advanced. And so you guys know how I am. I like to start simple and work your way up to the advanced and the things that are going to be a little more time consuming. So this is just about anything anybody can do. And of course, if you don't feel competent doing it, don't do it. If you don't feel your skills are up to it, don't do it. Just have somebody give you a hand. Have a buddy, you know, or God forbid, go to a gun shop. And I say that because, not to rag on gun shops, but those guys, they're just swamped. And they're always swamped because good gunsmiths are hard to find. So if you could do it yourself, heck, why not? Well, what we're going to do now is, first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the cylinder. This is the easiest thing you guys can do for your cylinder, and that is honing them out. I like to hone them out with 320 grit. Start with 320 grit, and look what I'm going to do. Uh-oh. Oh, I got the Dremel. I know, I hear you guys yelling at your computer screens right now. It's okay. Take a deep breath. Dremels are our friends. Once you do a couple of these, you're never going to want to do them by hand again. And this is how I used to do it by hand. See, I've got a metal wooden rod, and all we did was we sawed it in a little bit of a notch in there, enough to put our 600 grit sandpaper. So you can do this, wrap the sandpaper to your, you know, however big your cartridge is for the cylinder, and then get a little oil, stick it in there, and that's all you do. See? One thing I want to advise you guys who are doing this, make sure that your cylinders are spotless. No copper, powder, fouling, nothing in there. Otherwise, why even bother doing it? Because you're just going to be removing copper, fouling, powder. I use Butch's Borshine. That's the thing I use to get rid of powder. You know, that is awesome. Another thing you want to do is always use a good solvent. I always use Break Free. You put a little bit of dab of Break Free on your pad here. Now roll it back up and then get at it. And then what you're going to do is you'll hit each one, you know, and with the wood you don't got to really worry about any problems. Hit each one until they come out shiny. Clean them out, go up and down, go all the way down to the throat, see? And just kind of sit there and work it back and forth. And then, of course, clean them out, you know, and they'll come out real shiny. This gun, I've done this one before, so there's no problems with it. It'll come out just beautiful. You'll see, I'll show you what the shells look like when they drop off. Now I've got the Dremel tool with a little bit of double sticky-sided soft tape. See that? That way we don't have aluminum on metal, metal on metal contact. I take, and I got the same grit. This is 600 grit, but you can start with 320 if it's the first time you're doing it. Start with 320 and then clean it out really good and finish it off with the 600, and the 600 will make it shine. And if you guys want to go above and beyond, grab a little flitz. Put a little flitz on, a little you know, a little patch, and give it a little flitz work, and you'll see they will shine. So you see? That's all you do with the Dremel. That's it. And you take it and you work your way into each chamber, and you make sure you clean them very well. And you'll see how fast, how easy. Let me show you. Now this one we just polished. I'm not going to try with the polished one, but look, this is that's a sized piece of 38 special brass. And this is a unsized. This is an unsized piece. See that? This is a once fired piece. You can see we got the primers punched out of there, or it's been fired, and you can see it kind of just falls right out, and that's what you want, especially if you guys are shooting these, you know, long stretches, you know, in cowboy action or something like that. You want your cylinders to be as clean as possible. Another thing you can do, and you can hit your cylinder pins with same thing, 400 grit. You put a little bit of solution on here, a little bit of oil, and then just rub it back and forth, just like that. Pinch it together, rub it across. You'll make the pin very, very smooth. And again, you could flitz it. All these things, the flits are awesome. I mean, you can do flits with anything, and it'll just polish the heck out of everything you've got. So you've got a really nice pin, and it'll really ease turning. You'll see when you're shooting. Another big thing that we're looking at when we're talking about cylinder lockup is the wiggle room on your pin right here. Now, this one's pretty tight, but there's still, I'd say, maybe half a thousandth of an inch of wiggle room. Well, what you can do with that is they sell these oversized pins. Belt Mountain makes them. Let's see if we can get it out of this guy. And the pins, they're awesome. See these? They're beautiful. They're cut. Look at that. I mean, and Belt Mountain, that's the company that makes these. This is what I put in some of mine. And, I mean, it's got a lock head on there, so when you get that on there, there's no way this is coming out. You tie it down. There's no way it's coming out of the gun. That's another way you could improve your lockup time on your single action. Another thing you can do is when you buy a kit like we did in the last video, the spring kit, where you change the hammer spring and then we change the trigger spring, often or not, it'll come with, right here, this is the cylinder pin spring right here. You'll see, let me see if we could get it here. Well, inside here, when you take this apart, there's a spring that you can replace. And they make a little bit of a heavier gauge spring to keep your gun from kicking that pin out if you don't want to use the Belt Mountain like we have in this one. So you guys have a bunch of different options. And I mean, another thing you'd have to worry about is, you see that, how that pin is right there? There's that screw, you see that? It's like a dual headed over, see that? Well, to take that out, you've got to use a screwdriver on this side, see a regular slotted screwdriver here, while you're use a special tool to remove it. You can make your own tool. That's what we've done here. I'll show you guys. We took an old screwdriver and just using a grinder, we took and we ground the end. See? Took and ground the end till it would fit in that slot. And then we just used a diamond file. See? We cut that hole right there. The hole's big enough. So now, when you guys go to remove this, you won't bugger this screw up because you'll fits right into the slot, see? So, and then you'll take your regular flat head on this side, put your gun in the vise, and you can pop this right off and change your cylinder pin spring. So something else that you can do at home, especially if you've got a grinder. Most guys have grinders. If you don't, you got a buddy that's got a grinder. You got a parent, your dad usually, uncle. Find somebody, and you've got it. Another thing we can do is what guys do is they'll take, and a lot of the high-end competition, and they ream this off. You see this? This is the front of the cylinder. They take and they ream this off, and they replace it with a shim that goes in there, kind of like a sleeve where they sleeve it up. And what that does is, as you shoot the gun, it directs the gases away from the pin. That way the pin doesn't get full of fouling and binds up on you. Also, if your gun is a little loose, when I say loose, I mean when you put the cylinder in, the cylinder doesn't sit. I'm going to show you guys how we do this. The cylinder wiggles a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's put this guy back together. Now, any kind of movement you'll feel side to side, you can hear that. A lot of guys say that's a detriment to accuracy, cowboy action guys. It's up to you to decide how far you want to take it. So another thing, when you cock, right, and you see a little bit of movement, a little bit of over travel. See that on your hammer? That right there is what, you see how you're still loose while you're cocked back. And that's not good for accuracy either. Again, if you're just plinking, taking it to hunt, this is perfectly acceptable gun. But remember, these guns come off an assembly line, so as such, they got to be held to looser tolerances so they can be interchanged. The parts are interchangeable. So what you would do to fix that, and I'll show you. Inside, you've got a hammer. This is your hammer, and then you've got your pawl. Now the pawl is one area that when you ratchet this up, that's what picks up the ratchet and indexes the cylinder to the next round. That's where, if you see it inside, it comes here, right up here, and it pushes this up. Well, you've got this fit is not tight. You see how that sits in there? And what you can do is you can buy an oversized pawl. They sell, Brownells has them. And what you do is you take one file stroke at a time, and you'll fit the pawl, the second little grip right here, the second one, you'll fit this so it matches your gun exactly. That way there's no over travel, and there's no sitting maybe half a thousandths under. It's sitting right on it flush. That's where you want it. That way when you're sitting here and you cock the gun is not going to shake on you. So that's one area to look for, and we'll do a video on that, on how to file it down. Another thing you can do, and this is a little more involved, and here is your, this is your bolt stop. Now the bolt stop comes right over here. When you close the gate on the gun, see this thing that sticks up? This is this guy right here where my thumb is pointing, that little piece. And what that does is sits in the notch of your gun. Now this obviously is not the bolt stop for this one. But if you disassemble your gun, you take your notch and you fit it in each gun and make sure it fits. Each notch has to fit exactly. If not, you can file down the edge the way this thing turns. So you see how this guy turns? And you can tell which way a cylinder turns by looking at the, I call them arrows, the way they point. You see how they're pointing this way? So you know it's going to come up and hit this side first. So what you want to do is you take your file and you want to file it off little by little until you get an exact fit. Okay? And I'll show you what all this affects. Here's this gun right here. This is a beautiful, new model 44 special Bisley hammer, Bisley style grip. But look at this. Let me show you something. This one is probably about 3 or 4 years old. Let me show you something, how you can tell if your gun is having a problem indexing. Watch, or timing issue. As you bring this back, and you'll hear it. Alright, the bolt has come up and it's hit the bottom of the cylinder. But watch, we can still turn the cylinder by hand. Did you see that? It turned maybe half of a thousandth, a quarter of a thousandth of an inch. It turned it and it locked it into place. That is a timing issue. Let's try this again so you guys could get an idea. Listen. Okay, the bolt came up, locked. It's supposedly locked, but you can watch. I'm going to have my thumb right here on the back. Turn it. Did you hear that? It turned just a little bit. That means this gun has a timing issue. So we would go through and we would first thing I would do is the pawl. Fit the pawl. The second thing I would do is what's called fixing the bolt. Now here's the bolt. Here's your hammer. Oh, and if you guys are going to do this, believe me, your first 1 or 2 times, you're going to want to buy extra parts. Go to Brownells, shell out the money. It's worth it. Buy the extra hammer for your gun. Buy the extra pawl, the extra block right here. Buy them all, because when you're doing this, you are going to mess up. So tell me, I know. But you know what? It's the only way to learn, is to go out and do it. Now let me show you. On the back of your hammer, right here, this is the bolt cylinder notch. You see this right here? And what you're going to do with this is you're going to take your file and you're going to file off, keep the angle that it's on, and you're going to file it, you know, little by little. You take a little bit off, reassemble the gun, fire it, see how it works. Again, this is time consuming. That's why gunsmiths charge so much money. And I'll show you where this comes into play with this. If you look on the back of the bolt right here, you see right over here, this little shiny area, that is where it's rubbing against this part right here. You see this? So when the gun comes back, this is actually slipping off and dropping up. You see? And when you bring it forward, so it kind of teeter-totters like this. You see what I mean? You bring it up, and it slips back behind it. You see? That is how you fix your cylinder block and having problems. Now, an extreme block problem, I'm going to show you. A lot of percussions are like this because the Italians just throw these things together. I almost did a Freudian slip there. They throw these things together so you guys could check it out. I want to show you. You see this notch right here? Let me see if I can get it closer. All right. Now here's the cylinder. You see this notch right here? That notch should not be there. That was worn into the soft metal by the bolt coming up. See, it bolts this way. The bolt coming, and it's held with this pin right here, the bolt. See that? And the bolt's coming up earlier and banging against it. And you fix that by filing away on the hammer your cylinder block right here. Your cylinder notch, they call it. See that? So you'll file that away one stroke at a time, like I was telling you. And remember, take a file, stroke it, make a nice smooth pass, assemble the gun, try the gun. See, it's a labor of love. You guys are getting it now. So you'll see this. This is an Oberti too, by the way. You saw this when we did our patch round balls. You can see the notches here being banged, and that should not be there. They should fall into the notch. Very nice, but the timing's off on this gun. So again, we got to do work on this gun. And I think we're going to do the work on this one, and we'll post it up for a later video. There's a lot of information for you guys to get. This is more like an overview, so you kind of know what to do, what to expect, and why your gun is doing what it's doing. Another thing, when you cock your gun, you can look over here. You see that right here? That's scraping. That's not good. You're getting friction in here. And you could turn over on the other side. We've got a little bit going on here. What I would do, disassemble the gun, and you're going to take a file, and you're going to file the channels in here, all the burrs off. You're going to lightly, you just sit there. This is what you're going to do. You sit there, and you'll see the burrs. Take a Q-tip and run a Q-tip down that channel, and you're also going to want to take a Q-tip and run them down this channel right here. This is where the pawl comes up. You know, I'll show you right there. See, there's the pawl. That's the guy we're going to adjust. He's right here. And the channel in there, any type of wear, you know, tooling marks, you take your file, and what you do is you sit there in the channel and you just go back and forth, because these are diamond files. You know, just little cheapy little Harbor Freight set. Sit there and you just go like this, back and forth. And you will wear that down. And then if you also have a little Arkansas stone, you can use your Arkansas stone. This one's a little bit big. It's a little bit bigger stone. I use this on trigger jobs. But you can get smaller ones that fit right in there, and then just sit there and you just wear it out. A couple of other things you guys can do. And now, I know this video is going long, but like I said, there's a lot of info to go on here. When you take your gun apart, and now this is assuming you guys know how to take these apart. I'm not going to go over that because there's a ton of videos of people taking apart their single actions. This screw right here, and it's not actually a screw, this pin right here, pardon my friend, it's a pin. The pins, you can take them off, and again, 600 grit and some oil. Grit them down, you know, sand them down. Do the inside, sand them down. Anywhere the parts touch each other and they rub, you want to use 600 grit, and you want to use your good oil. I use Break Free. Always use Break Free. Oh, one more thing. When we're talking about your cylinder lockup and how your cylinder won't lock up tight. And I was saying how guys will take and they mill this off and they'll install a drop-in one. That way it helps deflect the gases. What you would do is there's a cheaper way to do that, since I don't have a milling machine and I don't know anyone does. All I have is a drill press. What you can do is you take your bolt with, your cylinder with the pin going through it, and say you want to make this longer. You want to elongate this so the headspace is, it's a little tighter in the gun. Let's say, we won't talk about headspace today. We'll talk about just making the cylinder as tight and shake-free as possible. You would take this, and then you have a vise, a benchtop vise, any type of vise on your bench. You stick this in the benchtop vise face down like that, and then you would tighten the jaws of your vise. As you're tightening them, you untighten them. You do maybe a 1/16 of a turn on the handles on your vise, and then you would take this and turn it, and then tighten it up again. Take it, turn it, tighten up again. Take it, turn it, and you're gonna tighten up, loosen, turn this, tighten it up. And what you're essentially doing is stretching this arbor out. And if you stretch too much, guess what? Take your file or your stone and smooth it down. Now remember, we're talking 1/2 thousandths of an inch. It's not going to take a lot. That is just like the poor man's way to get your gun to fit. Well, I think that's all we're going to go over in this video, because this video is going really long. If you guys have any other questions about what we did, any comments, concerns, send us a message. I know there's a lot of information. I probably forgot something. If I have, I'll stick it in the title, or I'll put it in the notes while the video is playing. Now again, if you guys don't feel comfortable doing stuff like this, don't do it. I'm going to go through and make a separate video on each of the things we talked about. Mostly fitting the hand first. We're going to do the hand. This is going to be great. Going to have to order an oversized hand. We'll do this, and then we're going to work on the timing for the bolt on this gun, because this gun really needs it. You can see how it's been peening the sides, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to spend good money on a gun like this only to have it peening like that and dinging up. Because remember, these are very, very soft metal the Italians use. I mean, it has the strength, but they don't heat treat them at all. So again, if you guys have any questions, send us a message. And again, join the NRA, Gun Owners of America. We had a good victory this last week with the M855 ammo, but you know what? They're going to try it again. So keep fighting.